It's a real medical dilemma. We know that nicotine is harmful to the circulatory system and can really damage the heart. So should the NHS be giving free vapes to smokers to encourage them to stop smoking cigarettes and go on to vapes? Well, a new study out yesterday has found that giving them out in A&E actually did help to double the number giving up smoking, which could obviously, because of lung cancer, save thousands of lives.
But we don't know the full extent of harms in vapes. So Ewan Fisher joins us now. Ewan nearly died after taking up vaping at 16, needed an artificial lung to keep him alive, and doesn't think that vapes should be given out in A&E. But Dr. Ellie Cannon says vaping is an easy win and it is still less harmful than smoking. Very good morning to you both.
Morning.
So Ewan, you know, I mean, we don't know the full long-term effects of vapes. You do, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, after everything that I've been through, I nearly lost my life. I don't want to promote the vaping type of things. There's a lot of other ways that you could probably get help.
Why do you blame vaping for what happened to you?
Because there were studies that was ongoing from the biopsy that they'd taken from my lung once I came out of hospital, and it took quite a few years. And they also took the liquids off me and took my vape. Studies shown that there was chemicals within the liquids that did have the allergic reaction with my lungs. That
what actually happened to your lung?
So I went into hospital early hours of the morning, many years ago now.
Couldn't breathe.
And I was really struggling to breathe. And they tried to turn me away to start off with. But I said, as a person who's really not very well, and my mum knows best, she told me, no, you're not leaving. So we stayed, and then it just went downhill from there. My lungs literally didn't want to work. I couldn't breathe, and I ended up in an induced coma and on 2 different life support machines.
And you're still damaged now, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got a lot of pains in my lungs all the time. And
so, Doctor, there are 2 separate issues here, aren't there? One, there's the allergic reaction to the chemicals in the vape itself and then the delivery system, and there's the long-term damage that nicotine can cause to the heart. And I know that because my father died of a heart attack, and the post-mortem showed that it was nicotine. He was a heavy smoker that had done for his heart.
Yeah, absolutely. What we have to remember is we've got 76,000 people dying every year in the UK from smoking-related issues. We're not just talking about lung cancer, talking about other cancers, cervical cancer, esophageal cancer.
Circulatory disease.
Circulatory disease, not to mention the heart attacks, the strokes, and all things like that, and COPD. So we've got this real problem with smoking, and nobody's ever said vaping is great and risk-free. No. What we've said from the outset, what Public Health England said, was vaping is a way to reduce the risk of smoking. You're right, we don't know the long-term effects, but what we know is that smoking is very dangerous, and let's try and help people cut that risk.
But I think, Ewan, one of the concerns you probably have is that if we don't know the effects of vaping, why are we passing people on to something else, which also causes damage?
Yeah, this has been my kind of question at the moment, because obviously who's to say that in 20 years' time, or 10 years' time, whatever amount of time, that vaping isn't going to cause the same amount of problems that smoking does cause nowadays, because that used to be, smoking didn't used to be looked at as bad as it is now.
Dr. Ellie Cannon, why, you know, instead of switching to vapes, and I'm sure vaping does stop the problems of cigarettes, we don't know what the long-term effects of vapes are, why not do a nicotine gum, nicotine patches, you know, get some, whatever counselling you need to distract you? You know, are there not other forms other than, which we know are not harmful, rather than something which you would say is harmful?
So it's a bit like when we're trying to help people lose weight. There's not sort of one size fits all, basically. There's not one diet, there's not one exercise that works for everybody. We have to get people to quit smoking, and there's lots of different ways. There'll be people watching who've just stopped. Overnight, they've done it, finished, cold turkey. There'll be other people who love using nicotine gum, and there'll be people who use vapes. And by giving people that armoury of different options, which is what we do actually in GP surgeries, we give them the different options. Do you want to use the patch? Do you want to do it like this? We're empowering people, as this study has shown.
And perhaps this vaping solution now is actually a relatively relatively short-term measure, because we know that with changes in the law, it's quite soon going to be impossible for a certain generation to ever buy a cigarette legally in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got this issue where vaping has become the gateway for children, and that's absolutely not what doctors have ever recommended. We've only ever recommended it as a risk reduction for smokers.
So what do you think of these colourful, exotic vaping shops that have sprung up on the high streets?
Terrible. It's just money-making, and it is absolutely trying to attract an audience. It's trying to attract children and young people into vaping when they never smoked.
Ewan, your final message to anyone thinking of taking up vaping if they don't smoke already?
Just please don't do it. After everything that I've been through, it's not just you it affects, it's your whole family and everyone around you, and it does play a mental effect in the long term.
Thank you both very much indeed.